Okay, we're going to move on. Violence against women in the legal system. Judge Snyder, are you here? Thank you. This is Judge Vicki Snyder, Henry County General Sessions and Juvenile Court. Thank you, Judge Snyder, for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I know Brian Bird's here with the TBI, and I assume we're going to talk a little bit about the judicial system.
Human trafficking.
Okay, that's what I'm going to talk about. So I might steal some of your thunder. And Dee Dee Christie is here, and there you are. And you're going to talk about the judicial system component of it. Okay. I didn't want to kind of repeat, so let me say first of all that since RAP made a presence in Henry County General Sessions Court, it has been wonderful. Christie does a great job. I've seen a lot of progress. Of course, if any of you work in the judicial system, you understand that the way cases are resolved that is up to the DA. They decide how they prosecute cases, and the court, the judge then accepts a plea agreement or negotiation or rejects it, and then it would go from there. But I do want to talk a little bit about human trafficking. I am the General Sessions Juvenile Court Judge in Henry County, been on the bench 7 years. I was in private practice for 3, assistant prosecuting attorney for 6, assistant public defender for 10, and before I went to law school, I was a social worker, so I've been on every side of the table, so to speak. As the judiciary in the state of Tennessee, we are giving a great deal of attention in our training to human trafficking and also veterans issues, and someone spoke about, I think it was Darrell, is that correct?
That's right, that's good.
About post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. We're going to be seeing a significant number of our veterans coming back from service, either domestic or international. And we are not really equipped as a society to know how to deal with those issues. So we are really looking at veterans courts and how we can better serve our veterans. But also we're giving a lot of attention to human trafficking. I did some research when I spoke to the United Methodist Women in Paris one day, and as a result, as a judiciary across the state of Tennessee, we are certainly giving more attention to human trafficking. My statistics come from the National Human Trafficking Resource Center data breakdown, which is the Tennessee State Report, which is a combination of the TBI and Vanderbilt study. From July 1 of 12 until September 30th of 12, in a 3-month period of time in the state of Tennessee, there were 47 phone calls made to that hotline in reference to human trafficking. Now, we think about human trafficking being something that happens in LA or Atlanta. It is happening in the state of Tennessee. Nationwide, during that same 3-month period, there were 5,183 phone calls made reporting human trafficking. Of those 47 in the state of Tennessee, 34 were English speaking, 13 were Spanish speaking. The TBI handles these Tennessee cases, and I'm going to give you a phone number if you believe that you know of a human trafficking issue. It is 1-800-TBI-FIND, F-I-N-D. Human sex trafficking involves the slavery of children and women who are forced to perform sex acts for money at various locations across the state. This is for the purpose of making money for their captors. This study conducted by the TBI and Vanderbilt found that human trafficking and sex slavery in Tennessee is more common than previously believed possible. It is a traveling business. Child victims are kidnapped, taken across state lines to entertainment events or sporting venues, such as Las Vegas. When a child is placed into human trafficking, a lot of times that child will be requested by someone who's attending some convention in Las Vegas, and they will call a phone number and say, I want a 13-year-old Hispanic child or a 13-year-old Asian child. The average age of a child that is a victim of human trafficking is 13. Usually a child or a female who are brought into the slave trafficking business are drugged, they're brainwashed, threatened, beaten. They are told, do not seek help, don't tell, Because if you do, then I'm going to come after your family. I'm going to kill your brother and sister or your mother and father. Or that the child victim is fearful of police, so is the female. And up until the last couple of years, actually a victim of sex slavery could be prosecuted as a prostitute. But fortunately, our legislators saw to it to change that, and that was a long time coming. Many times victims are arrested, as I've said, for the very crimes they're forced to commit. But the state of Tennessee has taken steps, and we hope that the other states will as well. 78 counties in the state of Tennessee have reported at least one case of human trafficking in the last 2 years. And in my county, Henry County, we had reported in that period of time one. Now, I know that's surprising. I didn't think that I would find that when I did the research on the statistics. 68 counties in the state of Tennessee reported at least one minor child human trafficking in that same period of time. 4 counties reported more than 100 cases in that period of time: Shelby, Davidson, Knox, and Coffee counties. 8 counties reported more than 100 adult human trafficking cases: Shelby, Madison, Lawrence, Davidson, Coffee, Franklin, Hamilton, and Knox. Most law enforcement officials and court officials believe that this is a much larger problem than is revealed by these statistics, just like the domestic violence statistics, very underreported. We know the tip of the iceberg because victims of domestic violence have the same fear that these victims of human trafficking. If you tell someone, I'm going to hurt someone you love, it's not so much they're going to hurt you, it's they're going to hurt your child or your parent. So that's the same concept for human trafficking. Victims need safe homes when they're recovered. They need environments that are healthy and loving and supportive. They need counseling, obviously, to say that would be an understatement. And they need medical treatment for sexually transmitted diseases and emaciation and drug addiction. West Tennessee is 5 hours away from Atlanta, which is the #1 trafficking hub and the entry point for most trafficked victims. Female children that are in custody of the Department of Children's Services are very often targets of pimps because these children are vulnerable. They are in DCS custody not because of something they've done, but because of their home environment. And as this young lady put it so well earlier, these children, any attention is better than no attention. So when a 13-year-old child is preyed upon by a captor or someone that is trying to seek this child for human trafficking, they make this child feel good. You are pretty. You are worthy. You are so good. And they buy them things. And then they drug addict them. And it's a vicious cycle thereafter. There are known human trafficking rings in Clarksville, which is an international, near Clarksville, which is an international human trafficking ring because of Fort Campbell. Now, envision that you have our military personnel who are in Afghanistan, Kuwait, Iran, wherever across our world. They marry, whether it's a man or a woman. Mostly it's the woman that is married from another country. She speaks little or no English. She comes to Fort Campbell. Her husband then is deployed again. There are people in our society who will prey upon women like that. They find out, they see her, realize she doesn't speak a lot of English, and that person is then prey. East Tennessee has a large number of Russian, Polish, Czech, and Ukrainian citizens, so there's a lot of human trafficking in that area. Now, I have 2 friends that are Sevier County judges, Judges Rader and Stokes, and in my research, and I talked with them about it, Sevier County, which is Gatlinburg, and I know probably you're all familiar with that, there are so many hotels in that county. And on any summer night, as many as 50,000 transient persons are there, visiting, Dollywood, etc. And therefore, the officials who conduct or create our statistics or gather believe that human trafficking numbers could be much higher. because those numbers are just not reported or not known. As I said, these children who are victims of human trafficking, they want attention. And any of you that have children or grandchildren, I have children and grandchildren, sometimes they'll behave badly to get your attention if you're not paying attention. Same thing. Sometimes these children just want attention, and even though that captor or that person who is preying on these children and women, even though that attention we know is bad and unhealthy, that child sees that it's someone that loves them and takes care of them and cares about them, buys them toys or clothes, buys a laptop, an iPad, an iPod, things that children think are important. There are some cases across our country and our world where parents will sell their children for drugs. When I was a prosecuting attorney, I had a like case where a mother prostituted her child, who was 13 at the time, I believe, for money and drugs. Later, and that was the prosecution I handled, and later, in fact, the last few years, that child actually took her own life. Not all human trafficking is sex-based, some is labor-based. We're aware of that as a result of people who hire immigrants, illegal aliens to do picking produce, cabbage, oranges, etc. I wanted to touch on that because I believe that this is an area that is just going to get worse. We need to pay great attention to it. And as a judiciary in the state of Tennessee, we are keenly aware of that, and we're looking at statistics, working with the TBI and the FBI. Now, I'm going to have to leave, but I will be glad to take any questions. If anybody has anything now, because
thank you so much for that research and that information.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know that we're looking at the economic impact of everything. Do you or your office have any numbers that you could share with us at all?
No, I don't have any numbers. I'm sure that I could get some for you from our, I'm on the executive committee for juvenile court judges, and I just came off the executive committee for general sessions state judges. I could find that information, and I have your email address, so I'll get that to you. We do look at that as a conference, as a general sessions and juvenile judges conference, but I'll tell you, sometimes we can get so caught up in the economic impact and the numbers that we forget the human impact and the toll. So as a judge, that's obviously I have to have a budget in my county. I have to do all the things that we all do, and funding is certainly an issue. You know, we've lost federal funding, which has caused us to lose a lot of our agencies that provide services for our citizens, our women and our children. The human impact, there's not a dollar figure on that. So as a judge, you know, I can't advocate for an accused person or a victim. I'm required to listen to the evidence, apply the law. You know, the DA prosecutes, the defense attorney defends. But I believe that our judicial system is like a chain link, a link chain. And every link is important. And it begins with our law enforcement. And we are very lucky in the state of Tennessee. I can speak to that because I travel around and handle sometimes cases in other counties. But I worked with Agent Bird when I was a prosecutor. We are so lucky to have the law enforcement agencies that we do. I believe the Dyersburg Police Chief is here. I know in Henry County we have a wonderful sheriff's department and police department, and they're very active in domestic violence. We have a lot of cases every week, and as if you don't know, the law changed so that when a law enforcement officer was called to the scene of a reported domestic violence incident, they have to determine the primary aggressor, and they are required to make an arrest if they determine that. So a lot of cases get to court. They don't all resolve in convictions, but we hope they resolve in people receiving counseling, victims receiving protection, and that as a judicial system and a law enforcement system that we are serving our citizens by protecting them. But I can try to get those numbers for you.
That would be great. Yes, I was there when the law was passed and was part of the women's organizations that was pushing for the training to go on for judges and policemen across the state so that the things that you just talked about happen when a domestic violence call comes out. And if somebody changes their mind, they can say, no, you're not going to change your mind. So that's a good thing. We know that it is a terrible problem, a horrible problem for the victims. But it is important to get the ears of legislators and the governor and policymakers by providing them with numbers. We need preventive programs. We need the funds that are there to continue so that our programs can be there for the victims. And in order to do that, somebody needs to address how much is it actually costing. It's not that we don't care about the other part.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be glad to try to get those numbers for you.
Thank you, Judge.
You're quite welcome. I'm glad to be with you, and this is a wonderful council, and I appreciated the comments and the stories today. As a prosecutor, I prosecuted, I think it was like 17 first-degree murder cases and had some domestic violence issues, and I always used to tell the victims that I dealt with, you need to get to the point, once we get you safe, we need to get you to the point where you can let it go. Because if you can't move beyond, and it's hard to do, but if you can't move beyond that, that batterer will batter you every day, every hour of every day, because they still win. And those victims that were able to move beyond that I worked with, that were the victim witness coordinator, etc., they were healthier. They didn't forget it, but they in some way could forgive and move beyond it. And that's something that I think we need to enforce with our victims as well through RAP and all of our agencies that serve. But thank you so much. It's a great program, and I'm sorry I'm gonna have to leave you, but I was on the bench last Friday until 9 o'clock at night, so I'm a little bit behind.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.